Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mother Drive. We are here to do episode 5, part 3 of the BAM series. The BAM series is the Be an Awesome Mom series while chasing your dreams. And I am your host, Kate Matthews. This is Krystal, our guest, Krystal Tornebene, like Benny and the Jets. And as you all know, I do this podcast from the car. If you're a frequent listener, you know that this podcast is dedicated to hosting supportive, uplifting, inspirational conversations for moms everywhere. As I mentioned previously, this is the 3rd episode in BAM, and this is based on moms chasing their dreams as entrepreneurs and how they juggle it all and also fill their cups while they are doing the damn thing. Today, our guest... Yeah, magic. Exactly. Exactly. Magic. That's it. That's the answer. As I mentioned previously, this is our guest, Krystal Tornebene. Krystal is a New York City DOE licensed general education and English as a new language teacher. She grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and now lives in Clark, New Jersey. Her husband Sal and her have 1 daughter and 1 on the way, and 2 bonus children through marriage. Krystal is also a published author and illustrator of the children's book When I Was Just a Little Girl, which is an awesome book, by the way.
Thank you.
Krystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That was a mouthful.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I had to get through a lot there.
That was impressive.
Thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. And as you're saying it, I'm like, wow, it's a lot under one roof. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we have a dog. We also have a dog.
Who apparently had very unfortunate episodes of diarrhea the other evening.
Why not?
Why not just sabotage every day,
Why
Rosie?
not? Lots of love, but lots going on under one roof.
No doubt. So Krystal, can you tell me a little bit about how your journey began and what inspired you to create Tinkertots? Tell us what Tinkertots is also.
So Tinkertots is, I don't want to call it a mommy me program because dads come, grandparents come. So, I mean, it's labeled, I guess, a mommy and me program, but it's really a group learning class. There were a lot of pieces that I guess started it. One of them was that I have worked my whole life, right? So I've worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs my whole life. I was lucky enough to be able to stay home with my daughter, and I started getting a little stir crazy. And I'm like, I gotta put my brain to something else besides singing, Miss Rachel, who I love. But yeah. I need to use my brain a little bit in previous child brain. So I said, what can I do? Where can I start? So that's where the book started because that was already began and I wanted to finish it. And then I said, you know what, that's finished. Let me take my background and put it into something. And in the area I grew up in, there weren't a lot of mommy and me's in Marine Park in Brooklyn. And I kind of wanted to be my own boss. If I was going to stay home with my baby, Lucia, I didn't want to answer to anybody. I wanted to kind of have that flexibility. And in my school that I work in Brooklyn, I created an after-school program for ENL children where they traveled the neighborhood, going to different neighborhood places, acquiring language, social skills, life skills, paying for things and how to...
Those are such critical skills. So,
and the thing that changed though was, okay, where am I going? I'm not dragging 20 children and their siblings and their parents into Petco, without an insurance policy. I can't, that's not happening. It's one thing to do it through the Board of Ed. It's another thing to do it on your own. So, I had this idea of bringing the trip to the children. I was like,
that's
maybe if
amazing. I love that idea.
Bring
the trip to the children.
I said, this way we don't have to go anywhere, but they get this kind of immersive experience. And then my partner, Michelle, reached out to me and she brought in all these other ideas because she's a speech language pathologist.
Amazing.
So she was like, well, if we put some sensory things in here and some descriptive things in here, we can access all these children. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it.
That's right.
That's the long and short of where it started, where it's going, what it is.
That's amazing. I love the idea of bringing the trip to the children because when they are toddlers, it's challenging to schlep them anywhere.
And nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I literally can remember going grocery shopping with Lucia for the first time. And it was the winter and I was sweating. I was just dripping sweat and I was like, what if I have to put everything in the wagon back and like run out of the store? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, oh my God. Like, I was, like, it's so nerve-wracking because you don't know what they're gonna do. Like,
and then imagine that with like other people's kids,
right?
And like all the things.
Yeah, no.
So bringing the trip to them was definitely like the right call. And I feel like I've said this to you before. Like I just think it's so amazing to have something that's really interactive. And they're very, very much active participants in like the play.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose.
Well, yeah. So that's what we wanted to aim for. We didn't want it to be super rigid, right? So I've taken Lucia to my daughter to Mommy and Me's before, and they've been great. They've been okay. And I noticed what worked best was when they gave a little bit more freedom. You know, not especially at a year old, like, not sit down, we're reading a book, stands up, we're dancing now. So we wanted to give it freedom, but also kids need a little structure,
Yeah.
So the structure's there and available. But if your child doesn't want to sit down while we're reading the 3-page book and they would rather, put their hand in the sensory bin, it is what it is, right? And they're acquiring language by doing that, right? And then somebody else comes over and they're getting a social interaction, and so things are planned out in a way where they can acquire their language through different facets. So we didn't want to keep it super rigid.
That's amazing, because I will say I've also been to Mommy and Me's, and it's very much like, we're doing this now, we're doing this now, we're doing this now. And like my child, I have found, has had like a difficult time just like immediately being like, okay, wait, I have to dance. And she doesn't even know what that means. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
At that young of an age, it's like, she's just learning to like her body.
Right.
Like,
she's like, this sounds good. This looks good. Like, I'm going to do this. And I'm curious about that. And, so at 1, 2, even 3 years old, like, they see new things. And it's not like, you have to sit down right now. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have structure, because obviously if they're going to get prepared for school and everything else, they need a little bit. But, the structure is also in the play. Like, this is how you play with this.
Yep.
It's not necessarily sit down now and get up. This is, here, this is the Play-Doh section, and you could play with it this way, you could play with it that way.
And we could keep it here in this space.
Right, exactly.
Which is a big thing for them to learn.
Yes.
We're going to do this, but we're going to do it over here.
Right. I've picked Play-Doh out of strange places.
Yeah.
I'm like, the Play-Doh has to stay here, please.
Yeah. No doubt. We struggle with that in our house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I even struggle with it with my my older son. He'll like steal his sister's Play-Doh and take off with it.
Yeah.
And put it places it shouldn't go. So tell me about some of the challenges that you faced with Tinkertots and being a mom. How have you overcome them?
So I think the biggest challenges are having the time, right? Because your time is always absorbed by something. And childcare, in my instance, has been an issue, which is why we've been staying in Brooklyn. We'd love to obviously expand it and go other places, but all of my childcare is in Brooklyn. So either Lucia will come with me to a class, or I'll drop her by my mother-in-law's or my parents. And so those are two of my personal biggest challenges. And of course, time. I have 2 older children, stepchildren, and we live 5 minutes from them. So they're in and out of the house, who has sports, who's coming in the pool, it's dinner time. And, then it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to cut out boxes and make like, fake people for these kids to feed tomorrow. And like, I'm like, what happened to the day? Like I said, I was going to cut out the boxes at 9 o'clock this morning. And, and as far as expanding, the childcare is obviously an issue. So I wouldn't say that I've overcome them. I am being like any mom or parent, and just
working
kind of
them.
Living and working through them to the best of my ability.
That's great. So when thinking about this from like a teacher and educator's perspective, what makes Tinkertots different than other classes specifically? I know we just riffed on that a little bit and talked about how, there's not like a rigid structure.
Right. I also find that a lot of Mommy and Me's are very specifically focused. So Tinkertots, it has everything, right? I don't want to say everything, because you live and you learn, right? I'm sure there's more we can add or take away, but there's something for all different types of learners. And I think it comes from mine and my partner's backgrounds. So my ESL background, you know, one of the biggest things when I started this was telling parents, like, I don't care if you speak just English. I don't care if you speak, you know, just Italian. Whatever it is, everyone's an English language learner. And I ride on that because English is one of the hardest languages. There's no rules, right? So you're always an English language learner. You're always learning something new, especially as a child. You don't know any language as a child. You're a blank slate. So bringing my background of how I teach English and language acquisition, and then my partner's background with speech and language, kind of gives access to all children, all types of learners. And we try to include everything. So we have a social station, we have a sensory station, we have a descriptive station, we have music and movement, we have reading. And again, because it's not so rigid, we're not cramming everything into an hour, you know?
Right.
If like the kids are not into the book, okay, so we read the book, we acted a few things out, we danced, we sang, let's go into the stations now, here's how to use them. We have arts and crafts. We actually just implemented a STEM station. So,
that's great.
Engineering, science, you know, again, they're not building the Eiffel Tower, but they're
figuring it out.
We're fostering curiosity, I guess. And again, it's bringing the experience to you, right? So I've learned in my career that thematic learning is so great for young children who are learning a language, because they don't have to relearn the vocabulary, right? So they're not going from one station and going, okay, I'm at the grocery store, and the next station, you know, oh, this is just like a water sensory bin, it has nothing to do with the grocery store. And then they're going to the next station and, you know, it's like a ball pit. And so everything is cohesive. So if we're camping that week, if we went camping, every station is camping. So the vocabulary is repeated, and the immersive experience is repeated, and the social interactions are repeated for that theme. So they don't have to remember all these things. Yeah.
And there's no disconnect. It's just all very
exactly
connected.
There's a lot of continuity.
That's great. So when you think about the highlights and best parts about running your own business, what would you say they are? And what are your favorite things to do at work?
I think the best part, and we could all kind of agree, is definitely being your own boss, like having that flexibility of saying, you know, these are the hours that work for me. Let's see what works for the parents, or making your own schedule. I also think being your own kind of creative director is a big deal.
That's great.
Like,
I like that one.
My partner and I, like, just being able to bounce ideas off each other and nobody being like, well, that's not in the plan, or, you know, you can't do that because it doesn't follow the objective, or, you know, where we're like, you know what, this didn't work last week. They really loved, you know, the sensory bins. Let's add another sensory bin, and, you know, let's take away I'm just giving you examples from obviously Tinkertots, but like, let's take away the social cart. We have a little Tinkertots cart. Like, let's take that away because they didn't really use it last week, but let's bring in, you know, a picnic table where they could socialize and pretend they're barbecuing, you know. So being your own creative director has been cool. And being able to go with the flow, you know, if I don't have childcare, if it rains, if Lucia gets sick, if, you know, Juliana and Giovanni are over and I can't get to Brooklyn, I'm like, okay, we're going to reschedule for Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's
you
not
know,
that
there's not this like tension and pressure of, yeah. So that's
awesome.
definitely been good. Can I take a sip of my coffee?
Yeah, please. Go ahead, drink up. So, you know, as a mom entrepreneur, it can be super challenging to like juggle the family, juggle the, you know, the expectations of, you know, if you do have a partner that you're working with on a business, right? Their expectations of you and your output and all that stuff, but also then your, you know, maybe you're also working a job besides that, right? So like there's a lot potentially going on while you are on this journey as, you know, an entrepreneur. Can you tell me like one of the ways that you try to achieve like balance? I know it's a little bit magical, but like what is like a
magic, a lot of coffee, you know.
So like how would you find balance? But also like how do you like fill your cup?
So this is gonna sound, I don't know a better way to say it. There's probably a better way to say it. and it's going to sound complete opposite of what other people may say, but I think the biggest thing I did when all of this was going on was lower my expectations. I really did. And that's like the honest truth. Like I just said, because I'm such a perfectionist, and I was like, I'm never going to get anything done if I'm going to try and make everything perfect, and if I'm going to try and stay up until 12 o'clock at night and make sure everything is exactly how I want it. And, you know, then I would do it, and I would wake up in the morning and be so disappointed because I was tired. Nothing was done the way I wanted it done. Like, so I lowered my expectations. Like I said, I'm not going to try and shove everything like down my throat at once and have these who has these expectations of me?
Yeah,
it's me. I'm my own worst enemy, right?
Yeah.
So like take the pressure off and like celebrate the little successes. Like I was like, you know what? I emptied, because my trunk is a disaster for Tinkertots, because I'm traveling with picnic tables and like chairs, and so I'm like, you know what? I emptied the car today and I washed everything off, and that wasn't even on my list, so that's cool.
Strong win.
Yeah, you know, and that's really, even with when I wrote my book, like you know, again, I'm a perfectionist to the umpth degree, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, and if nobody likes it, so what?
It doesn't matter.
So what? Like, nope. then it's a failure? Okay, but at least I tried, right? And like once I had that mentality, I was able to move forward, and I wasn't being my own worst enemy.
Yeah. And what would you say about like filling your cup? That like, because there's so many different ways people say, I'll go to the spa, do it, it's so different for everybody, but what fills your cup, like makes you feel good?
So I don't have a lot of time to do that. Like, again, because childcare is a thing. My mom still works. My mother-in-law's in Brooklyn.
Many mothers are in this position. So
like, you know, when people say to me, oh, well, just go get your nails done. I'm like, well, you know, I have to be home in an hour because they're coming home from camp, and Lucia's not going to sit with me. And then if I don't get home, I'm, you know, and my husband has a crazy schedule. He has no type of schedule. He's in and out all the time for work. So I think that, like, again, really small things, like sometimes, like, you know, taking a shower, putting mascara on, even if you're going to be in the house, you know, like, at night, again, lowering my expectations and saying, you know what, you're tired. Like, it's okay if you don't print out these Velcro pieces for Tinkertots, or just print them out and, that's it. You know, don't laminate them tonight. Don't put the Velcro on them tonight. Like, just get a piece of it done. Has definitely helped me.
That's a really, really good point, because there's this book, it's called Make Your Bed, and Jordan, actually the psychologist Jordan Patterson also talks about this, about do one small thing, right? One piece. If you do one piece, it eventually leads to two. You just build, right? So so I think that that's really important, what you said about don't do all the things, just do the one, and then it's okay, grants you the grace to sleep,
right? And it's okay to pick the thing that makes you feel good. You know, like the other day, everybody was over. My mother-in-law was over. All the kids were there, and I said, I really just want to make like a good family dinner. Like,
that's great.
And I mean, I know it wasn't filling my personal cup, but I knew it would make me happy. So I like made a whole like Sunday dinner on like a Tuesday.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Like, should I have done 3 other loads of laundry and like probably send emails to parents? And I'm like, but this is kind of what I wanted to do.
Right.
Like, this is where I wanted to put my energy. And like, it was nice then, you know, then everybody's sitting around, everybody's eating. And I was like, you know what? It was worth it. Like, I could catch up.
So what would you say to like the mom who's like on the precipice of like taking the leap to start her own business?
I would say just start somewhere. Start somewhere. You know, I'm also a perfectionist, but I'm also can be very scattered because I have so many ideas at once that I don't know how to line up sometimes. And like my biggest thing was start somewhere. So with Tinkertots, I was like, well, okay, if you're going to create this, you're going to need content, right? You're going to need, why are you special? Who cares about you? Like, so I started making slides. And then I was like, okay, where are you going to put these slides, right? You're going to need an Instagram. That's easy enough to create. So I started there. So I think it's just start somewhere. and with what you have.
Yeah.
And if, again, take the pressure off. If the whole thing bombs and that's all you do is make a few slides and get on Instagram and then you can't get back to it for 3 months, it's the beauty of being your own boss, right?
Yep.
Nobody's, nobody's coming to you and saying you're on this time limit or,
this project was supposed to be done.
Right. It's your project.
Exactly. That's really good advice. So I always ask, what is the best best piece of advice for business that you've gotten?
For business?
Yeah.
Probably just start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just start.
And then what about the best piece of motherhood advice?
Oh God, we get a lot of advice.
we do. Some of it is good.
We get a lot of advice. I think the biggest thing that I hold on to is to just do what works for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that may sound very general and vague, but like, when I stop, like, there's so much pressure again. So if like I'm in the car and Lucia's screaming and Juliana and Giovanni are like, we're hungry, we're this, we're that, like, I'm like, I have to do what works for me. So like if I have to pull over and be a half hour late to wherever we're going,
yes,
then like and I was never like that, right? I was like, everybody stop it, we have to be there at 9 a.m., And like, I was like, why am I doing this? Or like somebody's like, Lucia has to go to sleep at this time and wake up at this time and you cannot feed her and, then you'll have better. And I'm like, that's not working. My child's not responding to that. I have to do, right?
What makes sense.
What works for me to keep like a peaceful household.
Yeah. My husband, funnily enough, always says like, tune out the noise. Everything is noise. You're going to hear a lot of things. Do what is best for you and your partner and your family, and everything else is just noise.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. So, what would you say are three items that you couldn't live without on mom duty?
Coffee, wine, no. I can't have either of those because I'm pregnant right now, so I can't even use that.
That is what you wish you could have
right.
most.
Decaf coffee, non-alcoholic wine.
Living your best life over here.
Right. So non-tangible, I would say patience are like the most important.
Oh, God.
But tangible is like ever changing. So,
depending on the phase, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely car stuff and snacks.
Snacks are like non-negotiable.
Whenever I say to myself, you know what? I'm just going out for like a quick run. I'm taking the kids. We're going grocery shopping. The 10-minute car ride, it's like they're starved. Like I'm like, what happened? Why did I not bring snacks? What just happened? So snacks are huge. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Snacks, patience, and
snacks, patience, and a whole lot of prayers. No.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I'm trying to think of like my favorite items but it just changes all the time. What do I use all the time with Lucia? I don't know.
So for me, I would definitely say snacks. I would say coffee is an absolute like just necessity.
Yep.
And then a sippy cup, man. Every time it kind of like ties it with snack.
True. Yep.
Sippy cup is like, just every time I go to a restaurant and I didn't bring a sippy cup with me.
Yep.
Turns into an inevitable disaster with like the plastic cups with the straw. No,
they're always
bring
thirstiest and most hungry when you don't have it.
Exactly.
That's true.
That's what I
very
feel.
True.
I feel like sippy cup. And then, oh yeah, this is a great one. What is the biggest thing that like shook you when you became like a first time mom?
So there's a lot, and I think the biggest thing was a sense of isolation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it wasn't anybody's fault. Like I have a wonderful family, wonderful husband, wonderful kids, wonderful support system. But you're like learning and unlearning yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
Your whole life like changes. Like, your friends are like, hey, I have a babysitter. I'm going out Friday night. We're going to go get dinner. And I'm like, I don't have a babysitter. I haven't showered in 2 days. I'm definitely not coming out. Like, and then you get this major FOMO, right? And then you're like, why am I the mess up? Like, how come I don't have a babysitter? Four of my friends have babysitters. Like, why am I sitting home, you know? So your brain definitely plays tricks on you that, like, 100%. You're alone, which you're not alone. But so definitely that sense of isolation, especially as somebody who pre-baby, again, socially active and worked, you know, I bartended, I taught after school. So I had all of these facets of groups of people and social. And then I was seeing no one, you know? Yeah. I was seeing no one. I didn't really know who I like was. Then there's like this guilt where I'm like, well, that's mean. Like, why do I want to go out? Like, is that terrible? Like, no, my job is to sit here and cry with my baby. Like, you know? Yeah. So like this sense of awful isolation, like where I'm like, oh shit, like
that's a thing. No one tells you about the loneliness and the isolation.
And it doesn't matter if your husband's sitting right next to you, because
it doesn't matter. He cannot understand.
No, right. And like even another mom sometimes like can't be in your shoes, right?
Because she's not at that exact same stage. She can relate because maybe she's on her second or third kid and she's like been there and she remembers that. Right. But it's not the same thing as having someone, you know, who actually just had a baby the same time as you, same, you know.
And that friend probably can't pick up their phone.
Right. Like that friend is not available. The friend is not available. Right. Exactly. Especially if they're a first-time mother. Right. Because the cool thing about not being a first-time mother anymore is that the second time, I mean, barring any type of like, you know, colic difficulties or what have you, usually you're like, you go into OG mode and you just go, I got this. I don't need to be in a Google poop hole anymore. Right. Because that does happen on the first one. You're like, oh shit, that's the color. I need to get it. I need to figure that out. Right. You know, so there's like, there's that, I think, as well. But lastly, I want to ask you, what are you most proud of as a mother and a businesswoman? So far, I would say, I mean, I'm most proud of my family. Like, you know, my proudest moments are like when everybody's just kind of sitting together at the table eating dinner. Like, you know, because everybody's always running. Who has cheer, who has soccer and lacrosse, you know, I have to run with Lucia to Brooklyn and do something, or, you know, my husband Sal's at work and he's not coming home, and so to have everybody together at once sometimes, I'm like very proud. Like it's a sense of peace. But I also am very proud that my book and Tinkertots has kind of culminated all the things I'm proud of, right? So I'm proud of where I grew up. I'm proud of my career. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of the friends I've made, you know, my partner who, because I'm never too proud to learn, right? So my partner Michelle, who brings all this insight and has taught me things. So I'm proud that these things have culminated all of the things that I love, right? That's awesome.
So learning and family and my career and Brooklyn. Don't get me wrong, I love Clark, but I do have an affinity.
Brooklyn has your heart.
I do have an affinity for Brooklyn. I was born and raised there, but you know, so I think I'm proud that these projects aren't pieces; they're all of me, right? Yeah, they're everything I love all together.
That's awesome. That's a really good like reflection on everything as like a whole.
Kind of keeps me calm at night when I'm like, wow. I'm like, no, you love all this stuff.
I've got this.
You love it all.
So I just want to say thank you for sitting with me and having this awesome
thank you for having me.
Tell people where they can find Tinkertots.
So we have an email, which you can reach out to us at. It's Tinkertots MP, so TinkerTotsM like Mary P @gmail.com. You can find basically all of our content, like reels about trips that we've taken, informative posts on our Instagram, and the handle is at Tinkertots_official. And we also have a Facebook,
amazing
Tinkertots. So
that is crazy good. Yeah. So tell everyone about the potential for looking out for pop-ups?
So ideally, we would like to feel out the community, right? So that's what we did when we went into Marine Park in Brooklyn, my partner and I. That's what we did when we went into Bay Ridge. And again, we kept our expectations low as far as if people don't want it, then we do one and we move on, right? We
So I'm just like chomping at the bit over here because I just am waiting to enroll my daughter.
So we would love,
selfishly,
we would love to do like a pop-up, right? Out here, which would be amazing because, you know, again, we go against the grain a little bit. We do different things and we have some different insights. When it will hopefully be before the end of the summer. We'd like
Awesome.
I forgot to mention that we're all outdoors.
Yeah.
So we're very weather dependent. So eventually, if we continue, because, you know, that's the lowering the expectations, right? So like, if there's a need for it, if we continue, if people want us, you know, we'll eventually have to find some type of indoor space. So, you know, we're playing with it. We're you know, again, childcare, like I have nobody to plop Lucia on out here.
Yeah.
So, but if I knew I could schedule something like a pop-up,
Right.
then I could definitely have my mom or my mother-in-law come out and be with her. Again, it's not
Right.
It's not that I wouldn't take my daughter to my class.
It's just
because I love my
easier.
class, but you would not want to pay me to teach while she's hanging from my leg.
Yeah.
So I get that. I'm respecting your money.
Yeah.
So I would love to do a pop-up by the end of the summer, even if it's in a park, you know, and it's not an indoor space. You get the real feel for Tinkertots because we've been doing it outside. And then again, if there's a need in the community for it, if there's a want, then we move forward.
That's amazing. All right, folks, that's it for us. It's a wrap. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Thank you.